everybody. Once again, my name is Rudy. I'm the Chamber President. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out this morning. So some upcoming events. At the end of the month, April 30th, we're going to have a Grow Your Business After Hours. Judy, as soon as you swallow, can you talk to that for just a second, please?
And we have some businesses identified. We'll be putting out more information about that. But what it will be is just a fun after hours to mix and mingle and go around and see some of the businesses that will actually help you grow your business. And they'll each have a business tip for us. So I think it'll be a really fun event. We hope you come out.
Great, thank you. May the 7th, we have breakfast back here, and our speaker is going to be our very own Economic Development Coordinator, Brian Rothmel. And then on May the 14th, we're having a ribbon cutting at the new Child Development Center right behind Local Eats. So I would like to introduce our two speakers. We have two speakers today. They're going to be talking about BeHeard Central Virginia. Our first speaker is Jane Foy. Jane is a veteran broadcaster whose career began by way of theater. After attending Pittsburgh Playhouse School of the Theater, she became a stage manager at Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. From there, she went back to Pittsburgh, traveled around, worked at numerous radio stations, and then moved to Charlottesville in 1997, where she was a documentary producer for ESI Productions. From 1998 to 2018, she was a producer and co-host of the WINA Morning News in Charlottesville. Currently, she serves as a community outreach liaison for the Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service Project, BeHeard Central Virginia. Ms. Foy has served on the Virginia Advisory Board for Career and Technical Education and in an advisory capacity for numerous local nonprofit organizations. Our other speaker is Mitchell Morhart. Mitch is a senior research analyst at the Center for Survey Research at Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service, University of Virginia. That's a lot of words, dude. He comes to CSR after a distinguished career at the Economic Research Service, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and recently is the founder and owner of Authoritative Analytics. He has vast experience and expertise in several areas of applied economics and statistics. As one of the founding architects and manager of a large and complex annual survey of farm operators, the Agricultural Resource Management Survey, Mitch has acquired an array of skills pertaining to the collection and reporting of survey data. I'd like to thank Valerie for getting our speakers for us this morning. She's part of our newly invigorated Educate Committee. So if you're interested in helping out with that, let us know. And Jane, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much for having us stop by this morning. This is probably the loveliest drive I've had at 6 o'clock in the morning in a long time. It's a very beautiful out here. Let me just give you a little bit of background about this project of ours, BeHeard CVA. You may have seen the map when you came in that the nice folks at the Thomas Jefferson Planning District designed for us. That's the audience, if you will, that we are trying to reach with our BeHeard CVA project, and that includes 5 counties and the city of Charlottesville. The idea of forming a standing pool of residents of a certain area to voluntarily take surveys began, for us anyway, the way we heard about it, came from Temple University. Their project was BeHeard Philly. They were having issues within the inner city in a lot of serious areas: education, transportation, housing, etc. So the mayor funded this project called BeHeard Philly. Well, there's 1.5 million people in the city of Philadelphia. 9,000 of them signed up for their BeHeard project. So the ratio there, or the percentage there, is about 0.6% of the population. We are trying to enroll 10% of the population of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District. And if you talk to me or you talk to Mitch, you're going to get different figures, but it's somewhere around 210,000 people. And so 2,000 people would give us a great cross-section of 5 counties and a city. And that's what we're looking for. This standing pool of survey takers are residents. All you have to be is 18 and live in one of the jurisdictions. We will then, after we've decided that we have a really good, diverse group of survey takers, we will then begin marketing to .orgs, .edus, and .govs for our services of designing and presenting them a survey. Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service has been doing surveys for like 31 years. They're really good at it. The difference is when you have an enrollment of 10% of your planning district population, you can do a survey for far less cost than it would be normally, and you can turn it around much quicker. And the idea here is to make sure that nonprofits, educational institutions, and local governments will be able to afford to have a survey designed for them in order to serve their community better, to find out what they need to do, what they're doing well, what they need to improve on, et cetera, et cetera. So this is not a survey that is going to be used for some PhD candidate. This is for the community. So after the survey is taken, by the way, it doesn't go into some kind of survey closet that nobody hears from ever again. It goes back to the community. The survey takers will find out the results of the survey, and so will the community. So it is just a constant communication with the community. And what we're anxious to show you, we have a little PowerPoint presentation. We're really happy about that. We are trying to get our number up to that 2,000 mark before the end of the year. It would be nice to have it by the fall so we can start really digging in and planning for surveys. It is very easy to take the survey. I've left you all a bookmark on your table. Our website is BeHeard CVA, CVA meaning Central Virginia. BeHeardCVA.org. It takes about 5 minutes to enroll. The survey will ask you, are you a resident of one of the jurisdictions? Are you 18? If you agree to that, then they move on to the survey. And they will ask you about a dozen or so, maybe less, questions. The survey is confidential. It asks questions such as gender, age, education, income, so that we now have that demographic information that we need. And then you'll just click finished, and they'll say, thank you very much. You are a member of our survey pool. And oh, by the way, when you take a survey, we will send you some kind of very cool gift, which we haven't determined yet. But it's going to be good, I promise you. So it really is very simple, and it is, the whole idea is community engagement. Your community, your voice. And we really want to hear from all of the voices, from tippy top of Greene County down to Nelson and everywhere in between, to really help make this community better and responsive to their needs. So with that, I'm going to introduce you my friend and colleague, Mitch, and he will present our PowerPoint.
So as Jane indicated, this gives you a sense of the localities that we're trying to capture in the survey. Albemarle County, the city of Charlottesville, Fluvanna County, Greene County, Louisa County, and Nelson County. And that's how we came up with sort of the theme of Central Virginia for these localities. And when we do surveying, we're going to try to represent this region as a whole, but also allow for surveys and sampling within the region itself. So for example, if you wanted to look at specific issues that are germane to Fluvanna or Nelson County, when we get full enrollment, we'll have the capability just to target specific counties or specific populations within this broader area. Again, as Jane emphasized, the real genesis of this panel is to encourage community involvement. It's a way for a rich diversity of people to make BeHeard CVA stronger and our community better. It's to inform policy and current issues with all of the people in the panel and reflect that diversity. As Jane mentioned, the eligibility for the panel is adults, anyone 18 years or older is eligible to participate who lives in the area. There's no restrictions about when you take surveys. You can do it on your own time. You can take surveys how you want. You could do it on a phone, a laptop, a home computer. You can actually take a survey over the phone. So we're trying to accommodate many different ways to participate. And you can also select to do surveys as often as you want, once a month, once every 3 months. So we're trying to build in a lot of flexibility for these sitting panelists to participate at their convenience. And as Jane mentioned, to encourage participation, we'll have some rewards each time we do a specific survey. In terms of the survey itself as a resource, the types of people who would be our customers to conduct surveys, as Jane mentions, are nonprofits, public agencies, programs, the issues surrounding, say, mental health or addiction programs or health care. Government services would be a topic and a client for these types of surveys. And then public opinion, such as affordable housing, tax rates, that kind of thing. And each time we do this survey, we're trying to make it succinct and brief. So it's not going to be an hour-long adventure. It's designed to be a 10-minute or less experience, and you would have a series of questions specific to a topic that one of these public agencies or nonprofits would like to address. How do we know we're going to represent this region accurately? This is the crucial component of doing this kind of a panel. Weldon Cooper Center has a long history of doing surveys and has experience in the underlying statistical properties of a survey. And I don't want to get into the weeds about statistics, but as Jane mentioned, when you join, you're going to be asked a series of demographic questions. What's your age? What's your education? You're going to say, well, why do people care about that? Well, the importance of knowing these demographics is so that we can monitor and measure how well we represent the population. And we can adjust our recruiting and our sampling methods to make up for deficiencies in certain education categories or ethnic categories or gender categories. So it's important for us to make sure that when we do surveys and we say we're representing this area accurately, that we can prove it. We can stand behind what we're doing and say, yes, the population is covered and it's accurately represented. So that's a key feature of having this capability and being tied back to the Weldon Cooper Center and all of our experiences and expertise in surveying. What about my privacy? Yeah. This is another key feature that, again, being tied to Weldon Cooper Center and the University of Virginia, we have security systems and protocols already in place that, because we do surveys, that's our business, and we're constantly monitored by the university and by independent boards. It's called IRB, Independent Review Board, and you'll see that stamp or that insignia on a lot of the surveys that we do that says somebody external to University of Virginia looked at our processes and our procedures and said, yes, you guys are doing things correctly and you're protecting people's confidentiality. And so again, being tied back to that system, we have procedures and protocols and computer systems that we think provide great measures of security and confidence to our participants that we value and protect your confidentiality. So I guess, you know, the real bottom line is we're hopeful that by putting this together and creating this community service, that we can learn and get better informed about the issues that people care about and improve programs and services in our area. I mean, it's one thing to acknowledge there's deficiencies in government or we could do things better, but the prescription of how to do it or what people really care about is often misplaced because of lack of information. And we think this is going to fill an important void for public policy and improve a lot of the services in the area we're targeting. How do I get involved or how do I sign up? So for you as chamber members, there's sort of two ways to look at this. One is an opportunity to join and let your voice be heard. And secondly, as a resource. How can we as chamber members or as business owners benefit from these kinds of surveys? Well, you know that there's surveys out there. You may team with other chambers in other counties and get together and do a survey. So it's a resource and an opportunity. So from both perspectives, we're hopeful that you at least listen to what we're saying and think about how you might get involved. The easiest way is just to go to BeHeardCVA.org. There's a lot of information on the website, and also you can call us at the Cooper Center, and we'll get you started. Let me leave our contact information so you can reach out to Jane or Tom Gutterbach, who is the Cooper Center Center for Survey Research Director, or myself. We'll all gladly come to other events or other meetings. Jane and I were just talking about Farm Day. That's another opportunity to engage with the community. And the important thing to leave you with is we want all these localities to be well represented. So we're here today to encourage people from Fluvanna to participate and get out and represent Fluvanna in this larger effort. So let me stop there and give you an opportunity to ask Jane or myself questions. Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Steve Nichols. I have a question about tailoring of surveys to what the localities may need. Is there an opportunity for localities to request certain types of survey questions or certain topics?
So what we're trying to do, in the past, if a locality, say the county of Fluvanna, wanted to do a survey about public services, and they wanted to hire our group, the Weldon Cooper Center, it would be pretty expensive. $30,000, $40,000. It's not inexpensive to do right, to do with statistical precision. With this kind of panel, we're going to offer the same kind of service at a much, much lower price. So we're trying to make it more affordable for localities and nonprofits and other institutions to get surveys, to conduct surveys. And again, this regional perspective provides a lot of opportunities to partner across counties or other measures.
And then a follow-up on the grouping of folks in there and getting a proper spread. If you're in Albemarle County, there's probably a pretty substantial difference between Scottsville and Pantops. And there may also be a pretty substantial difference in Fluvanna County between Kent Store and the lake. How do you make sure you get across? I mean, I know you're going for income and education and diversity and age and gender and ethnic profile.
Yes.
But how about geographic profile too?
Within a county, we're looking at zip codes would be the lowest level of examination. So we are paying attention to, so once we get this panel populated, say we get to 2,000 and we have, say, 600 people from Fluvanna, we can then profile our Fluvanna 600 participants and see how well they match up to the population statistics for the county and make sure we don't have voids that were, a certain zip code's empty or a certain income bracket's empty, and kind of go out and recruit and fill those voids and adjust our statistics to make sure we're not misrepresenting any particular geography.
The other thing is, just as we are doing this today, we are going to try to reach out to every known group within the communities in Fluvanna. So it really is our job to get to know the organizations and the groups in our service area so that we will make every effort to reach out to them first. If they choose not to have us for breakfast, that's their business. But we're going to try to reach out to every community, large and small. And that I add, Mark was nice enough to correct my math. It's 1%, not 10%.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, well,
10%.
we'll take that
We'll
too.
take it, but it's, but if it's 1%, that's just perfect. And one other thing I want to share with you, which I thought was kind of amusing, we made our first public appearance with our canopy and our pretty tablecloth and our BeHeard brochures, etc., at the first annual Greene County Beer Festival on St. Patrick's Day. And a young couple came up to the table and she said to me, well, can two people in the same family enroll? And I said, do you have separate emails or separate phone numbers? Well, we have separate emails. And I said, then fine. If there are more than one person in a family over the age of 18 with a phone number and an email separate from the other person, certainly both people could sign up. And she was so happy, and she looked at me and she said, because there is a chance he and I don't have the same opinion. So I just wanted to reassure you that anyone in your family with a separate email is more than welcome to enroll as well.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
So if we partnered with the other chambers within the region
Yes,
for a survey,
Yes.
would you disaggregate the data that pertains to Fluvanna County?
if we had enough panelists to do it with statistical accuracy, we would. So the only caveat on breaking things out by county or zip code, our reputation is all we have as a research and statistical agency. So when we say something's valid and representative, we want to be sure that it is.
The other question about localities, especially from a local government point of view.
Yes.
Do you want to know, or can we contact you when we're going to have town hall meetings or things like that?
Yes.
Because you'll have
Yes.
an opportunity to get a different demographic at a town hall
Exactly,
meeting.
exactly, yes, no, that would be terrific.
Great.
No, as James said, we need to get out and visit with people and tell them what we're doing and get them excited about it. That's what we're about.
I have business cards here.
Yes, so see Jane afterwards. Any other questions yes, Valerie?
About 10 years ago, the Central Virginia Economic Development Partnership
Yes.
did a survey on the labor force. The data is now 10 years old. That was a six-figure project.
Sure.
It was
No, I understand.
well over $100,000. And they went and interviewed people. They did a survey
Yeah.
going to Walmarts and the Food Lion and things like that.
Yes.
Would that kind of survey be done by BeHeard? Because what we were looking for, being the recipient of the data, the partnership was looking for what are the trends in education, what are the trends in business development, and what are the needs? Why can't they find the right people?
Those are absolutely germane topics. The only sort of condition I would put is to say, and I know the survey you're talking about, and it was pretty lengthy. I think, maybe 100 questions or close to 100 questions. So you could probably do the same thing, but we would encourage you in this format to break it into maybe 3 parts or 4 parts so it doesn't overwhelm the panelists. Again, we're trying to make this not burdensome for people, 10 minutes, 7 minutes. So we could do something, but it might take a couple iterations to get the full complement of information.
Does the model include analyzing the data and then comparing it to analogous situations? So, for example, if in Fluvanna we're asked, do we have the best county administrator in the world? And it comes back with a 4.2 on a 5 scale. Where does the 4.2 rank in a broader comparison?
That's a great Great question, and so, and this goes back to sort of my role in all of this as an analyst. I'm sort of on the back end. I'm in charge of making sure the reports that we produce and the way we analyze the data is statistically defensible. And so the vision we have right now is sort of 3 tiers of results to a client or a customer. So one tier would be sort of, here, you had 10 questions, here's a summary of the survey for those 10 questions. It's sort of brief, and here's a few graphs and a quick summary. A second tier would go into a little more detail and look at your summary across various demographics. So instead of 2 pages, it would be, say, 10 pages and have a lot more depth to it. And then the third tier would be a very in-depth analysis and report, 20 pages, that goes into here's what your study showed, here's what other surveys show, and here's how it compares, in the full-blown type of analysis I think you're leaning towards. So we're going to have that flexibility, and again, some of that will influence the pricing. So because there's, you know, research and an analytical time involved in each of those tiers. So, but we're still kind of trying to price that out, because, you know, our goal is to make this, to do a cost pricing. We're not trying to, you know, profiteer off of this. We're going to charge what it costs us to do each tier of analysis in the survey. And because this is new, we don't have that nailed down yet, but that's our vision, is to have that capability. The initial funding source for where we are today, I mean, we're just starting. And the initial funding came from the University of Virginia's President's Office. And I'm sure you've seen some in the paper that they're trying to do some awareness surveys about the university and various topics specific to the climate at the University of Virginia. And so they're going to utilize the panel once it's populated to do their survey. So they gave us some seed money, but the rest of the funding is sort of self-generated, self-funded. So we're going to price the surveys that we conduct at what it costs us to produce and do them. So that's our model. And again, as I said, we're learning as we're going. We started recruiting, and let me back up and mention how we're recruiting. So there's 2 ways that people can get into the panel. We have a sampling approach that is random, using telephone or mail invitations. So we have some statistical sampling methods that we're using. So you may get something in the mail and say, hey, here's BeHeard, how about joining, and so forth. That's a random sampling, and we started doing that about a month ago. We sent out 2,000 invitations. And then we have the second approach, which is the street teams and the targeted group meetings and individual recruiting that Jane will do, that supplements the random sampling. Combined right now, we have just about 400 panelists as of today. And our goal was to reach 800 by May 1st. That was our first wave. We call that wave 1 or phase 1. Our goal was to get to 800 by May 1st, and then come back and evaluate how we sampled and recruited, and then build on that wave and try to double it again in a couple months. So that's sort of the process where we've been so far. Yes, sir. We're not unique in what we're trying to do. I think we're learning from what our predecessors have done in Philadelphia and in Denver. Those are the 2 prominent examples. There's another one that's starting, I think, in Boston. The one in Philadelphia is pretty much the model that came from Temple University, as Jane mentioned, and they have about 9,000 panelists in their group. And we learned from a lot of the mistakes they made in how they started and recruited, and so that's been very helpful. But we're also doing some things differently because of our region and our survey experience. So it's a combination.
Thank you very much, Mitch. Jane?
You're welcome. Thank you.